have to ask for an audition.
You haven't auditioned yet?
Oh, no, I'm not in the group yet. No, I'm afraid I just blew myself.
Hello.
I have feelings for you.
Development.
Just go
I
right
have
into
feelings
it.
I don't know. Can you bring the energy? I need to.
for you.
Hi,
The
everybody.
feeling
What's
was
up?
friendship,
How
but
you
neither had ever
doing,
experienced it.
World. We hope you are having a fantastic night, just like we are, on this fine Tuesday evening.
I'm having a shit night because we just watched Arrested Development.
Like 2 months ago.
Well, I was trying to make it seem like we just watched
still ruining
it.
my life.
I was like coming with maybe we'll leave the illusion of like.
Okay. No.
No. I think we gotta play now. Like there was I attempted it. You said no. We didn't stick with it, and now it's like all right, we did.
This is how.
That's a loud fucking card. That didn't pick up on the mic at all.
It did.
Why are we gonna talk over it? Okay.
Today is horrible for us because we're still dealing with the after effects of watching Arrested Development season 4.
Nice. That's a good save. We meant to make this a long time ago.
Yeah, we really wanted to make an Arrested Development.
We were
season
gonna film
4
it, but for a special. But honestly, I didn't use shampoo today, and I've kind of been feeling fugly.
If
so
you want,
I don't want to be on camera.
we'll provide you with the trusty timeline guide that I had to make.
Yeah,
which we'll get into.
We'll get into all that, but I think maybe since it's a special, you can go a little bit harder with some of the post-production editing and video capturing.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So there'll be something for you to look at.
Anyways,
we watched.
Wait, I feel like
Let's set up some plot here.
Okay, so if you've never seen the show Arrested Development,
well, let's set up even more plot.
Oh.
Have you ever heard of the show Arrested Development? Actually, let's set up some more plot. Do you know what a TV is?
No. Okay. So, if you've never heard of Arrested Development, it's a TV show that ran for 3 seasons on Fox, I want to say, but honestly, that might not even be true.
It's popular. Had many famous people in it, such as
Jason Bateman.
So it was a very popular show.
No,
and
BoJack. What's his name? BoJack Horseman.
It was the show that
Will
BoJack
Arnett.
Horseman got his start on.
I feel like he was in other stuff before.
Nope.
That. Oh, Michael Cera.
Also got his start on Arrested Development.
And Buster. I don't know what. They're all very funny, very comedic. Portia, Ellen's wife. And.
I don't think anyone wants to listen to us ramble about celebrities we don't really know. I was just going to say, Arrested Development, if you don't know it, it's a show about a rich family in California about the housing crisis of 07. Or the housing shortage financial crisis of 07.
I was going to say, the show, like, the first 3 seasons are, like, objectively really good.
Yes, if you've never seen the show, watch the first 3 seasons. The show will end and stop.
Yeah.
We decided to do what everyone warned you about and watch the Netflix seasons.
Yeah, so the show ended in, I want to say,
There's
what?
plural seasons. Netflix seasons.
Yeah, but we're only talking about season 4.
And 5. I wanted to give a brief little talk about that.
We'll get there. When did it end? Okay. Anyways, the show ended and enough time went by that it should have just died. But Netflix said,
cult following.
Let's bring this back.
Season.
It's got a great cast.
Everyone loves it.
Everybody loves this show. It's like very
notably. Everyone's like, it was gone too soon.
Yeah, and it only had 3 seasons. Let's do a 4th season. What's the worst that could happen?
Nothing.
When Netflix got the rights to Arrested Development, they're writing season 4.
Mm-hmm.
They write it because now the cast is famous and
from doing Arrested Development,
Development, and now like their careers have taken off. It's
hard to get them all together.
They can't all be in the same room at the same time, so all the episodes are kind of blocked off as like one or 2 characters' storylines. However, after the 4th season aired, somehow later down the line, they get picked up for a 5th season. And so then before the 5th season, they re-edited the 4th season.
Because they write a new...
In quite literally the most insane way I've ever seen a TV show.
What I'm trying to say is that the show got canceled twice.
Oh, well...
Yes.
Yes. Because they're not making more.
No, well, 3 times then. So what I'm saying is that the show first did 3 seasons, and those are great. Then it got canceled. Netflix brought it back. No one liked it. It got canceled. Then they re-edited it because they decided to make a 5th season. We watched that re-edit. This is our thoughts on that.
If you go on Netflix, you can... The immediate 4th season that comes up is the re-edited version, but there is a way to go in
and watch the original season 4.
If you're going to watch season 4, I honestly might recommend that you do that.
It's not much
but
better.
But I don't really recommend that you watch season 4 at all.
Yeah, just ignore it. Pretend it doesn't exist. Just
actually.
The show ends with season 3.
Although I will say, I was going to say we had a fun time hate watching it, but it honestly turned into it was fun
pretty
at
exhausting.
First, and then it was like, this needs to be over because
I think we should talk about some of the big problems that we've already alluded to.
Okay.
Since they couldn't get the cast together,
yeah.
They had a lot of moments where they were under budget and over ambitious and ended up green screening people into shots they simply weren't in. This was in the original airing too. This wasn't a re-edit decision.
Yeah.
This was a fuck up on production's end.
Yeah.
And so, aside from the plot and script, there's a lot of egregious editing that just is horrible.
Ugly. It's lit weird.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the lighting was bad in any notable way, especially not having had seen things such as like West Side Story. Like, now I really know what bad lighting is.
Wow, I'm just throwing that hot take in there. By the way, we watched West Side Story. Ryder gives it 2 bags, and I give it a full 5.
Yeah, that was a fun little fun review in the middle of this bonus.
Anyways.
Special. Well, the Arrested Development has so many other glaring problems. So again, the green screening is really bad.
Well, I guess we'll kind of get into this, but the cast is notably older than they were.
And they wrote it to take place 5 minutes after the season 3 ends.
Yeah,
so there's no time jump initially.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
We will get into the entire timeline of the show, timeline of what all of the characters are doing, just so maybe you're not going to watch it, or maybe you have and you're still confused about what happened when.
Yeah,
we'll get into the timeline for that, but we just wanted
podcast assumes you've seen the first 3 seasons and are pretty familiar with the characters. If you don't know Lucille 1 and 2, go watch Arrested Development.
Oh yeah, okay. So we are assuming that you've seen the first 3 seasons.
Yes, you don't necessarily have to see in season 4, but if you have, then this will make even more sense, because we tried to rationally understand how the flow works. The reason why you might be thinking, why the hell would we need a timeline to explain a TV show? This show, because of the aforementioned episodes involving 1 character, maybe 2, and solely focusing on them and what they were doing for like quote unquote like a whole summer or whatever, the episodes then were recut to make it seem like it incorporates more characters in the show, like the original seasons. And in doing so, the chronology and timeline of everything gets very
really
skewed because of all the constant flashbacks and jump forwards.
There's a lot of... They kind of go forward with one character's plot, and then they'll be like, meanwhile, and then they'll go into a different character's plot, but then sometimes they'll also go back or forward in time to fill in the gaps of what other characters are doing, and it's very confusing, and it's a lot. Now, should we just get into it?
With all that out of the way. So the show starts at this event called Cinco de Cuatro, which is
technically the end of the timeline.
It's the end of this season, and all we know is that Michael is really desperate for money, and then we jump back to the past. The original season 4.
Wait, I guess they don't show that yet.
They don't.
Oh my god.
Yeah, if we'll give you a slightly accurate
so there's
experience, but eventually we're gonna just start rambling. So I was just going to say, depending on which version you watch, in the original edit, you follow Michael from that scene. He was begging for money, and then you go back to the past and figure out how he got there. And it follows him going to college with George Michael, his son, and sort of their misadventures. The re-edit, we don't get that until episode 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So, pick a plot line, any plot line. It doesn't matter. Let's pick a character.
I kind of want to. I think we should start with them because they're like the most like irrelevant, just to get it out of the way.
Wait, the main? Okay, yeah. Let's talk about the beef first. Let's get into the stakes.
I want to start with, so this, like we said before, like the 4th season starts directly after the 3rd season. I honestly don't remember the exact plot line, but basically Lucille is like in trouble, or I don't know, something's going on and their boat is crashing.
They're being chased by the cops.
It's very much reminiscent of like the first episode of this series, which is why it should have just been the end. But season 4 begins pretty much immediately after that. They're in like the waiting room.
They're like survivors of the wreckage.
They're like all kind of joining back together.
One of the few scenes where they're all together, actually.
Very jarring because you look at Michael Cera and you say, that's not the Michael Cera from
Arrested Development.
What?
The show.
Yeah, but that's not like, he looks so much older. And everybody looks really old, but like I feel like
just you wait till the next revival season, honey.
Oh, yeah. But, well, yeah.
We'll get there.
But, yeah, that's basically where the 4th season picks up. We pick up right where we left off. Okay, so we're going through every character's plot line.
Yes.
So we're going to start with Lucille 1.
Which is the main Lucille.
So, because of this, I'm assuming because of whatever happened in the end of season 3, in the beginning of season 4, she is now on trial.
Yes.
And
on house arrest.
Yeah, so she loses the trial, if you remember.
And
because
then goes
nobody
to jail.
shows up for her. And she's under house arrest for
a few months.
And
then goes to jail.
She's in jail. Oh, we should also mention even though the show starts right after the end of season 3, oh bless you, then there's a little bit that happens, and then there's a big 4-year time jump right in the middle, which we'll kind of get into, but like sometime in that 4 years, Lucille goes to jail, and she spends most of the rest of the time in this jail
and then a rehab.
And then at the end, she joins Tobias in rehab, and that's pretty much what she's up
plot,
to.
Like the whole season.
And a lot of the plot of the 4th season sort of, in a way, like revolves around that, but also her plot sort of fades into the background.
She's more of an instigating event.
She's kind of just
cause
always
everyone else
either home or she's in jail, which then her house being empty is like
a plot point. So the fact that while she's in jail, she's trying to coordinate with George Bluth,
her husband,
some sort of money scheme on the Mexican-American border to get a Trump-esque border wall built.
Which this is kind of interesting because
came up way after Trump.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like it's kind of a play on the Donald Trump "let's build a wall," but like in a way that's like it's like not funny. It's not like they're making fun of Donald Trump. They're just like
they're just
putting their characters on the same level as him.
It's like as if their characters were profiting off of that.
We should say that they
are trying to profit.
So while Lucille isn't at the trial or jail or wherever she is, her husband,
George Bluth,
goes to visit his brother,
Oscar Bluth,
at what they believe is the American border.
He has a small property that George Bluth buys from his brother, and hopes to sell it back to the government and as part of their border wall. Only to find out, spoiler, much later in the season, it's actually much, much south of the border. Actually by like 200, 300 feet. So it's worthless.
Yeah. And they can't build the wall that they wanted to build.
Yep.
There's also a plot where George is like scamming people out of money. Right? Like he's like
meanwhile, while there's this wall discussion, we have to have an excuse for George Bluth to be palling around with Oscar.
Yeah.
So there's this whole money scam thing out in the desert where they just have people sweat and charge them a lot of money for water. It's supposed to be funny, but it just feels pointless.
We should also mention, like, there's other characters there that are with him. None of them who are, like, in the main family. Like, these are new introduced characters that are there. They are... I honestly, like, I couldn't... This was, like, the hardest part of the show to watch for me. Like, it was so not funny. Not only not funny, but, like, not interesting. And, like, the fact that there's, like, two... Like, there's George and Oscar, and then just, like, all of these other characters that are annoying. It was honestly driving me crazy. That was their whole plot. But there is a plot line where George is eating drugs that are downstream from some kind of chemical.
It's like some fungus.
Plant.
He basically gets a lot of estrogen in his system accidentally, and he starts becoming trans.
Yeah, and like
it's supposed to be funny.
It's supposed to be.
I think. I don't think that was supposed to be a statement.
No, I don't. I'm not exactly sure what the point of it was, because it kind of shows up at the very end of the 4th season.
And it's forgotten about for season 5, pretty much.
I don't remember, but yeah, I don't think it's a big part of season 5. They do make like a fun little transparent joke, like the show that the actor is on, where he plays a trans character. So I don't know why they did that on this show.
So that's like the main like, plot of the family.
I feel like it's mostly there to, like, there's a million jokes of like making fun. He's like, why am I so emotional? And it's like, oh, because you have like women's
estrogen.
Yeah,
women.
It's like, am I supposed to think this is funny?
Basically what we're saying is that the whole purpose of that plot is to be funny, and none of the jokes.
Yeah, that was a really sucky plot. Who should we do next?
I feel like naturally we should just do Michael.
Okay, so
let's say George is like the evil of the family. Michael is the main heart.
He's like the Mario.
He's the main character, objectively.
Yeah.
So, you want to take it?
Okay, so at the end of season 3 and the beginning of season 4, Michael once again is like, hey, I'm gonna leave my family. And there's a clip of him where he's like, I'm done with you guys, I'm leaving the family, that they must play in this season no less than 10 times.
God, at least.
Without explaining any context about it. It's one of those things that they cut back to. They're like, Michael's leaving the family. Okay, but meanwhile, and then they cut to something else. And I think the reason they
do that is just to give you some semblance of time, like where you're supposed to be in the timeline,
like before or after
Michael freaks out, which again is the first element of the new season in terms of timeline. This is like one of the first things that happens after the boat crash and after Lucille's house arrest is Michael leaving the family.
In his time after he leaves the family, Michael sort of takes after his father, and he builds the entire development. As you know from if you've ever seen Arrested Development, part of like the gag of the show is like they live in this model home that's supposedly supposed to be surrounded by other model homes, but like never was. It doesn't really go very well because he doesn't build a road to it because he runs out of money.
Yeah.
So
it's
nothing's really going on there.
It's a ghost town out in the middle of nowhere.
For some reason, there's a mailman.
Well, he has to get mail.
Okay.
Which again feels like should have been talked about in the previous seasons.
There's
a mailman. There's a mailman who dies.
His name's Pete, and he dies, and it's
probably
insanely.
It's one of the most talked about moments that's introduced.
And you might be like, Mailman Pete, never heard of him?
Never heard of Mailman Pete. What's a Mailman Pete? It's I don't know, some dude.
If you have never heard of Mailman Pete, that's okay, because he's introduced as he's dying, basically.
Yeah, his last words are his first.
He dies, and this sets off a lot of plots.
So anyway, then Michael moves in with his son in college because Pete dies, and that's affected him so tragically. because this one mailman, his only social contact, dies.
Yeah, we don't know why Michael is so attached to him. The only thing we can assume is that it's the only person he's talked to in the past 4 years.
Which, again, the whole plot of them, this house suddenly being inaccessible, sort of retcons the whole show. The whole show. Like the first 3 seasons.
Yeah. It's
constant
I
being
think it's
driven
kind of
to.
it's kind of a fun take
It's
that
a
he
fun
finishes the
joke.
development, but it's weird that then
There's no road out there, so what have they been driving on this whole time?
yeah, we can't think too much about that one. Anyways,
So then he moves to
So,
college with his son.
he decides to go live with his son, George Michael, at his college dorm. Like, he basically shows up, he's like, I'm living with you now, we're roommates. Which is okay, sure.
His son, George Michael, let's talk about his plot.
So
since
George
they kinda
Michael
intersect,
is in college right now.
And
And
he-
he's in his senior year, I think.
is when his dad moves in.
Yeah, so this is where we kind of see the 4-year
This is towards the end of that jump.
plot jump, because we kind of see George Michael right before he goes to college, and then George Michael's senior year of college, and they kind of go back and fill in a little bit of plot.
But he's basically
But
the reason that there's a
he-
4-year jump.
Yeah. He studies abroad one summer, and then there's like a weird one.
They give him a
scene
few
gag
jokes.
where he,
I'll say they
like,
give him some jokes.
He learns how to make out and like have sex, and then like might have impregnated someone, but then they kind of gloss over it. I don't know.
They
if you
gave him
remember that.
some jokes.
Yeah, he's like
Nothing important, just some jokes.
he's just there.
His dad comes then.
So-
now we can continue the plot.
Yeah. So Michael goes to visit George Michael in college, and then he's overbearing and a lot to deal with. So
And George Michael doesn't know how to tell him to
George
go away.
Michael, and also we should
Well,
well
we can then
maybe is there as well.
say- she shows up.
So everybody, it's maybe
Maybe
George
shows up for
Michael
some reason.
and Michael, and they have to.
What was like her reason? What
Okay.
college maybe?
She's still in senior year of high school, even though she's the same age as George Michael, because she keeps failing school.
Yeah.
So she's like in like a program where they go to see seniors in college and get tutored. That's why she's there. Yeah.
Right.
So
that's why she's in George Michael's college. And so he sort of just trying to brag to her, and in doing so creates.
So George Michael creates a fake app called Fake Block,
Because he's just trying to sound cool.
which he is like, it's software that it's privacy software. But it's not really. What
It's
it is
totally
is
fake.
an app that is a wooden block. Like a block, like
Like to keep a beat. Yep.
but he doesn't want to admit that.
Which you could arguably make without even the app.
Yeah, they did that like little gag in the show.
It's
It's
just
funny.
it's one of the well-written
Yeah.
jokes. I'll say that's funny.
Yeah. So George Michael kicks his dad out of his dorm. And Michael is then left to go on his own again. And he somehow
Decides to become
becomes
a
a
movie
movie
producer. Yeah.
and he's now writing a movie about his
Family.
family. And
This is where it gets meta. Because then we have the narrator introduced, John Howard.
Ron Howard.
Ron Howard. We have Ron Howard
who is the narrator of the show, is now a character.
playing himself
Playing himself, Ron Howard.
as the studio executive of his own studio, the studio that made Arrested Development.
Is it? Oh, okay. Yeah, so there's layers here.
I think.
And
If I'm wrong, then I'm totally just
it's
wrong.
meta also in the way that now Michael is trying to get the rights to tell his family's story from his family.
You have Ron Howard
But
here on
there's-
the list of
I
characters,
know, and I didn't write it out.
but we don't have any plot line of his because
he
he
only
doesn't.
shows up at the very end.
Because again, he's just sort of
Yeah.
there. He doesn't add anything.
Well, he has a daughter.
Well, we can talk about that.
Okay.
I was gonna more say, in terms of Ron Howard's being like reason
Yeah.
for being on the show, it felt like just to promote his production company.
I thought it was kind of fun.
I thought it was fun, but I was just saying, don't expect that meta-ness to go anywhere interesting about like making a show or production in any way. Nope.
What you get is Michael going to all of his family and being like, can I get your signature to be in the movie? And then, like, a couple scenes later, them doing something to piss him off and him being like, you're out of the movie, and ripping up their signature. And he does that with pretty much every single character.
Mm-hmm.
And it is slightly repetitive and doesn't add... Our neighbors are talking and I can hear it. So yeah, it doesn't really add much. Like, there's really not
It's a fun joke.
But it
doesn't go anywhere.
Overplayed.
The only reason he's there is to show that Michael has a new authority figure he reports to, and that authority figure, being Ron Howard, happens to have a daughter,
whose name is Rebel Allie.
This Rebel Allie happens to take a liking to Michael, and he starts liking her immediately.
So he wants to cast her in his movie as his wife or something.
They connect. They
and
do it.
They are in love, or so it seems.
And then let's cut back to George Michael.
Cut back to George Michael. So
while he's going on the tour with Maybe, who's promoting his fake app, which he doesn't want her to do, but he doesn't know how to tell her no, because again, he's trying to brag to her, meets this girl who's very interested in him. Her name is Rebel Allie.
Rebel Allie. That's right. George Michael and Michael are dating the same girl.
And so then that's a plot that ends with them going, oh, well, you can have her, to the other, and hugging it out.
No. At the season 4, should I just say how it ends?
Yeah.
The very last shot of season 4 is George Michael punching his dad in the face.
Which then, season 5 opens with his
George
dad
Michael punching his dad in the
getting
face.
back up to now George Michael's
and they do
being a much older version of himself.
They do the time jump again.
They do a huge time jump because, again, it was canceled and brought back for a 5th season that no one wanted. And in that time jump, that one shot, for some reason, they reshot it. They didn't write it to be later. They just said,
they ended them.
Pick it up right where it left off. Again,
we watched
because these
edited
seasons
versions.
don't have any purpose. There's no plot. They're just sort of the same characters doing things.
And we did watch, again, the re-edited version, so I don't know if that's how the original season 4 ends, but...
I think it is. I think we looked it up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is the same ending, and it's so deeply unsatisfying.
It's so unsatisfying.
Even though it's like, yeah, you know what, George Michael, your dad has been annoying this whole season. I get it. Ending
There's other things going on that we haven't talked about yet.
Ending the season on that just...
Bizarre.
Really didn't do anything.
It doesn't make you want to watch more.
And it makes you just go, wait, what? And then, I mean, now there's a season 5, but I'm imagining watching that when there wasn't a season 5 and that just being the ending. That would have been horrible.
So let's talk. Let's give the people what they want, because there's actually a big event we've been avoiding.
We should give the people what they want.
At the end of the first episode, no. That's fun. That's at the end. You got to stick around.
We still got 5 or 6 more plots to get through. We should talk about Lucille too.
We should talk about Lucille too. At the end of the first episode,
our beloved Liza Minnelli.
At the end of the first episode, they do go back to that first flash forward scene at the end of season 4 where Michael was asking for money. We follow Lucille 2, the person he was asking money from, and she is murdered. Dun dun dun.
She's found dead on the stair.
Car. Again, very badly green screened in.
It's
horrible, but she's dead.
And
so,
yes, you guessed it right. This entire season is also a whodunit.
Yeah, we're supposed to be trying to figure out who killed her. Except
they don't give any character any motive until the very end.
Yes, there's no build up
because
of that.
They're like, shit, we want people to. I think it's because they re-edited it and they were like, now
she died in the original too.
Well, yeah, but
it's weird and it's a cliffhanger.
They want people to think about who could have killed her, but they didn't. They already knew who killed her, so they were like, shit, people are just gonna know. So we have to give people pretend motives.
Without getting into that,
yeah,
I was gonna say
I feel like we didn't
they
talk about
set
that
up this murder to be a whodunit, but then it's also a flash forward. So again, the whole time we're watching, it hasn't happened yet, so you can't really deduce who it is
on the very end of the
because it hasn't happened yet.
But I think it's supposed to be setting up.
It's setting up for
season
motives.
5. No, I'm like,
as well.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be setting up season 5, this
but-
whole murder
so,
death thing.
Lucille 2 is pretty much like not
Her whole
up to
thing is-
anything.
well, she gets into politics
She's into politics and she's
from a very young
campaigning.
age.
Lucille 2 was into politics from a very young age.
And so she gets into politics to
And
get
then she
money,
dies.
and then she dies. And,
And
so
should we just... Well, we should say they don't say even
They
who killed
don't-
her until the end of
Well,
season 5.
the season 4, the way it goes is the whole season. Again, you know she dies at the end of the season, so you're just sort of trying to figure out who. And the closest we get to that is a video clip of Buster finding her, going, "Oh no!" And so you're led to believe, okay, well, it can't possibly be Buster because he's he's such the obvious choice.
And
that
it
they wouldn't
seems
make
like
it
he's
Buster.
discovering
So
her
then,
body.
season 5 is Buster's on trial, and you're like, okay, so who's the real killer? Buster's on trial. Buster gets off trial. The rest of the season 5 happens, and the
Most
last.
of season 5 is a trial, but yes.
But then the last
This
episode,
I'm the only one here that's watched the 5th season.
the whole way through, we
Yeah.
watched a little bit of it, but I couldn't.
I've seen it, and if you didn't like, the thing about season 4 is that it's really, really horrible, but it's at least slightly fun to hate watch. Season 5 is like painful to sit through to watch, but it does have some very interesting character revelations. Like, spoiler alert, did you guys know that Lindsay is actually Lucille's sister and not her daughter? That's right. And Buster actually
He did
has
kill
committed
her.
murder.
He did kill her.
Not only Lucille too, but his own grandma. Mic
Which-
drop.
Yeah,
I just fucking spoiled all of season 5. Sorry if you
it's
haven't
okay.
seen it.
We told people
It's
we were
not
doing
canon. Like I mean, it is,
that.
but like I
but
like
it
to believe
shouldn't
it's
be.
not.
Yeah. Buster just.
So Buster's the
there's
murderer.
A whole trial. There's a whole trial. Buster gets acquitted, and then says, "Oh, yep, I murdered her. Here's her body."
Yeah, she's in the wall.
Because they build the wall.
Yeah.
They end up building that wall.
Don't know how he got her.
Don't know how he got her
Anyways.
from the car at the festival to
They might
inside
have
the
explained
wall.
it, but
I can't be bothered. So
Anyways,
the whole
Buster's
murder
murderer-
mystery is just a watered out, fizzled, unplanned waste of time. They were figuring
It's
it out as they were
truly,
going, and then
like,
just said, "Who cares?" By this point,
if you watch the first episode and you're like, "Oh, I'm excited to see who murdered Lucille too," you are in for the worst ride of your entire life.
it's no "Who shot Mr. Burns." I'll tell you that.
Sure, I don't know what that means.
It's Simpsons.
Oh, Simpsons.
They had a whole thing where someone
So-
shot Mr. Burns.
Buster. Again,
let's talk
spoiler
about-
alert,
let's talk about-
Buster's a murderer.
Buster's
but
a murderer,
we still
but
love
let's
him.
before the murder, let's
So-
talk about his innocence before
Okay,
the murder.
so
He
at
misses
the
the tri-
beginning of the 4th season, as we know, Lucille 1 was on
going up for trial
going up for trial,
for the
which
boat
Buster
thing
misses.
because
He was with Lucille 2.
who apparently planned that as a distinct act of malevolence against Lucille 1.
So then Buster is
Out of
sad
a
and-
family.
Well, yeah, his
So
mom
he
is on
joins-
house arrest. There is a really funny scene. Those scenes where Lucille is like smoking into Buster's mouth, and then he's like blowing it out the window.
There are some funny
There's like some funny goofs and gags. I just like want to give the show a little tiny bit of credit.
Sure, there's a few good. The
There's some
actors aren't
goofs and
bad.
gags.
Yeah, there's some good goofs and gags.
So then he joins army.
He joins the army.
Rejoins army.
And they give him a robotic hand because if you forgot,
God, I just
they removed
cringed at
his
the thought of
hand.
this stupid. So
They
he
gave-
had a
they-
hook.
He got rid of his hand, gave him a hook, and that was the whole thing. Where they never thought I'd miss a hand so much.
They gave him a hand.
They gave him an actual hand.
And it is 4 times larger than a human hand.
It's a big hand.
It's like, and then his plot is just like Buster has a big hand.
And no, then he moves in with a politician.
Hubert,
Again, Terry
Hubert
Crews, who is a
Hubert Love.
character they add this season,
who did
doesn't
not
appear
really want to be there.
in season 5. He definitely didn't.
He's doing,
He had Brooklyn Nine-Nine going for him. He had other things to do.
yeah.
And so Buster lives with him for a little bit because he's like a freak that's been outcast by the
yeah,
military.
he lives with Love because Love is like doing this like
Politician.
I love
vets.
the army.
Yeah.
And if you're wondering who Hubert Love is,
He's the politician who wants to build the wall.
Who is
He wants to build the
he
wall that
wants
the
to
family
build
wants
the
to
wall
build.
that George and Oscar want to build.
So for some
Oh, wait.
reason, the whole family's working towards that goal, whether consciously or unconsciously.
Yeah. So he just becomes kind of swept up in the family's business.
He didn't mean to, just sort of coincidentally.
So Buster ends up living with him, then
he finds out about...
sleeping with his wife?
Oh,
Or no?
yeah, he does.
I don't know if they only
they do that.
kiss or if
they sleep.
Yeah,
he
so
sleeps
he
with
sleeps
his
with his
wife.
wife, so then he's like, oops, gotta go. And then he...
Goes back to Lucille too?
No, then he murders her.
Yeah, but why does he murder her? Because he finds out that she made him miss the trial.
Sure, yeah, actually,
It was something like that.
Yeah,
He like goes
he
back to
murders
her
her.
to be like, I love you. And she's like, oh, well, I only did that so Lucille 1 got fucked.
Oh, yeah.
And so like...
Anyways...
Yeah, so it's kind of
But
like...
again, when we say that he murders her, it's like they don't show that
They don't
in this
show it, and they
season,
allude to it,
it's-
and they're
yeah.
supposed to make you doubt yourself, but you don't
Yeah.
really doubt yourself because none of the other characters could do it. Like Michael
Yeah.
clearly isn't that desperate for money for murder. Fucking what Job did it like. No. Anyways, let's talk about Job.
Do you think the
because
guy in the
everyone's favorite character. My voice is a little raspy, but I'll
We've
try.
been watching-
Michael. Everyone's
We've been
favorite
watching
character.
BoJack Horseman, so I'm like even more impartial to Job now. To be honest, he's kind of really lacking in this season, but then he shows up. When he shows up, he shows up.
He does.
And he really makes the most of what.
He was been doing
So-
BoJack Horseman by this point, so
Yeah.
he knows how to have fun.
So we start with him. So if you remember the end of season 3,
I don't.
Job is sleeping with George Michael's ex-girlfriend, Anne.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, they're sleeping together. And now they're getting married because he, ironically, a la maybe, said like, oh, marry me. And then she's like, oh my God, we're getting married. So now they're getting married.
Yep.
But Job's like, oh no, I don't want to marry Anne. Her, like, no. So he makes this elaborate scheme where he's going to do a magic, or an illusion, if you will. Mm-hmm. And he's going to, like, basically, he's Jesus. He's going to go into this rock thing, and then when they reopen it, he's not going to be there. He's going to, like, disappear, a la Jesus.
You said Allah Jesus?
Like,
I don't know if you can say that, but...
like, I don't know why I was like,
Allah.
like Jesus.
Oh, okay.
Allah.
Esque, similar,
Yeah.
or Allah-esque.
Yeah, Allah-esque Jesus.
I don't know if that Allah-esque works. It's almost worse. It's almost like making more attention to it.
Okay.
You wrote 3 things down for this whole season.
Well, that's because he doesn't do anything because he fucks up, he messes up his...
He should be dead.
He messes up his illusion so bad that he is quite literally stuck inside of a rock for months. That's why there's such a confusing, because the way that it lines up with the plot line, you're pointing right now at the 4-year time gap, but there's no way that he was stuck inside of a rock for 4 years. Like, he would have died.
This is the thing, though. They don't talk about his limo driving, which is the next point on the chart, until way after. Later.
Oh, yeah, Job, for some
there's
reason,
so much.
sells all of the houses that Michael couldn't sell.
Well, because like he
because there's no road to the houses and they're very isolated, he couldn't sell them. Job sells them all to registered sex offenders.
But how did he even get in touch with the registered sex offenders? So let's save that plot till we
Job
get
is
to
stuck in a rock for a while.
There was this rock, this illusion that it was supposed to be so he could like get out of a marriage by, slipping out of this hatch, but he gets trapped in it and then sealed, and the family that was about to marry him and marry into, they realize he doesn't want to be in the family, so they just say, fuck it. Whatever.
Yeah.
Let's go to our lives.
Yeah.
And he gets stuck in there for legitimately
we don't know
unquestionable amount of time.
But it's like he shouldn't be alive.
He should be dead.
But he's not.
Because he's handcuffed.
But when they find him, I'm pretty sure he's like
still handcuffed.
But he's like, do you remember he's like eating the Twizzlers like off the ground.
He's
like a chicken. Like
he did somehow manage to stay alive. I know they mentioned it, but like
I think, yeah. So
there's no human way he would have lived.
So then,
water.
after an undisclosed amount of time later, Job finds himself with he reconnects with his son, Steve Holt.
Right.
But he doesn't. The funny thing about this is that they bring back Steve Holt, but he like noticeably, because the season takes place a lot longer, like after the third season, Steve Holt looks like a completely different person. Like he's just very grown. And the goof of the show is that like nobody knows that it's Steve Holt. That's like the funny joke. Everyone's like, "Who are you?"
You should add a laugh track. Just when you say that joke, you should have like a laugh track go off. Yeah.
Anyways, then Job somehow gets into he befriends this younger pop star and somehow becomes his limo driver.
Right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Did you remember what that kid's name was?
No, it was supposed to be some like
Marky Mark
for, like,
or something.
Justin Bieber, Vine star
Juicy
type.
John.
Young kid with a beanie type shit.
Marky
you know what
Mark.
I mean?
We're gonna call him Marky Mark.
Marky Mark's like such an old people reference. That's okay. Like from the 80s.
Okay. We'll call him
Henry Styles.
Henry Styles. That's a good one. Job is driving around Henry and his friends. There's a point where he has a bunch of bees in his car, and
he gets really into drugs.
Okay, anyways, he basically is like driving around this young kid and his friends, and
he gets
like
really into drugs.
He is just really into like their partying, drugs,
Molly.
Lifestyle.
Specifically Molly,
and he's just like kind of losing his sense of time,
because he just keeps popping Molly,
and he finds himself in somewhat of a roofie circle.
Yes,
if you will.
It's such a good. Can you explain what a roofie circle is?
I would like to say
explain what a roofie circle is.
It's basically where you do something that you regret, and so then you wake up and you roofie yourself, and then the memory that the roofie blocks out is just of you roofing yourself, right? So you still have this regret. Am I right?
I mean, that's like much later on, because again, drug use is habitual. So each time you use it, you need more to get the same high. So initially it starts with him like using it to like forget an embarrassing moment. And then he doesn't learn his lesson and then repeats the mistake. Yeah. And then he does it takes it again to forget it. And then eventually it gets so bad that he just like is forgetting. He's forgetting to like that he just took them. Yeah. His memory gets destroyed.
And I would like to say I don't think this plotline is ever resolved.
In this season 5, at least. Maybe. Yeah. We never watched. Season 5, there is a great gay plot.
No, that's this season. Him.
That's this season?
Yeah.
That's like started in this season, but I thought it was finished in the next season.
No. So there's a great one of I think the better parts of this season is the Job and Tony Wonder plotline.
Ben Stiller.
Now, if you remember Tony Wonder from the first 3 seasons, he's like basically known as like being this gay magician.
Played by Ben Stiller.
Guess what? He's not gay. That's right. He's been playing you all. He's a straight guy pretending to be gay to
just like Harry
get
Styles.
Into the magician circle. I don't know why he's doing it, actually.
No comment on that.
Yeah, I'm going to glance over that one, actually. So, there's a plot line in which Job is pretending to be gay to... I think actually this plotline is resolved in the 5th season. But Job is pretending to be...
Don't they actually become gay for each other?
I think like...
They were trying to out-pretend gay each other.
They basically
and then
are
they
both...
actually have gay sex
Job
with each other.
is trying to out Tony as not gay. So he pretends to be gay so that him and Tony will do it. And at one point...
Anne wants to do a revenge thing.
Because I think she's pregnant.
What?
She's pregnant with Tony Wonder's baby. I'm almost positive, and that's how Job is like, oh, he's not gay. or I mean, I'm honestly maybe making this up, but I'm almost positive that
I don't
Anne
remember her getting pregnant.
Anne is
at all.
pregnant with Tony Wonder's
I thought
baby.
she just was upset that like Job
No.
didn't like her and left
No,
her.
she's like, after you left me, Tony Wonder, like, really. Anyways, I'm not wrong. Anyways, Job and Tony Wonder are, like, there's this scene where, like, they're both, like,
Bojack
pretending
and
like
Ben
they
Stiller
like
have gay
each other.
sex. It's pretty great.
Bojack and Alex, the line from Madagascar.
Oh, okay, sure.
And they do
I just couldn't remember Job's actual name.
gay sex. And it's, like, really funny. And there's this really fun plot line where they're like, I have feelings for you. And then, like, they're like, the feeling was friendship, because they'd never had platonic male friends before. And it's, like, kind of funny.
There's like, that's probably the highlight of the whole season.
Yeah. And it only takes place in the very end, which is unfortunate.
So, going from the highlight.
And so that was Job. Job is nothing but the hits. Now we've got to talk about...
Nothing but the stinks.
And here's where I'm getting a little bit sad, because... And Tobias.
And Tobias. The writers
think-
clearly hated Tobias.
I was just going to say, I think that there are certain characters in this show that either had beef with the writers didn't like them, or their
actress who
characters.
played Maybe clearly didn't want to be there, and they gave Maybe the shortest plot
Yeah.
because of that.
And
it's very hard to trace
Yeah.
where it goes.
And
truthfully.
so, but by the end of this season, if you watch this season and you are still a Tobias fan, good for you, but that is almost
Fugue
impossible.
clan, Maybe, Lindsay, and Tobias all end up going to India at the point of the trial, which is why they weren't there for Lucille 1.
Yes.
Now, they all go to India sort of separately, coincidentally, at the same time. What happens in India?
Well, when Lindsay is in India, she speaks with the shaman, who's actually just Maybe. And she's like, I don't have any husband or kids. And then Maybe's like all mad at her
And it's like
for that.
fucks with her, kind of.
And yeah, and she gives her some advice that Lindsay takes out of context. Tobias is also just there. Yeah, he gets hit by a bus. I don't even remember that.
There's some slapstick.
Anyways,
So eventually
they come back from India.
They buy a house.
They buy a gigantic house because this is directly
Right before
before
the
the
housing
market.
crash.
Yeah, the housing crash.
Yeah.
So they buy this ginormous house, and it's like,
Ton of debt.
oh, what room are you in? That's like funny. And then the market crashes, and they
So they get a separation.
Yes, they actually for real separate, and they basically both end up falling for different characters, both of which are just like, they introduce a Tobias love interest who is Debris, and a Lindsay love interest, Marky. Oh, that's where I was getting Marky Mark. Sorry. Anyways, both of these characters suck so bad. They're not funny. They're just losers. Like, Debris is quite literally a meth addict. The joke of her is that she's addicted to meth, and like she's like, she was what,
She was
in
an
the
actress?
Fantastic Four, right?
The 1960s version or something.
Yeah, so she's like, they just constantly reference that, and like
That alone.
Tobias is just like taking care of her as she's like clearly going through something incredibly horrible, but like they're trying so desperately to make it funny, but like how many times can you make somebody like basically overdosing on drugs like a funny gag in a show? And then you've got Marky Mark, who is a terrorist basically.
Yeah, actually, like, gotta respect that though, in a way of like, has an ideology and is taking action.
Yeah, and also Lindsay ends up being a hooker for Herbert Love, who we mentioned before.
Politician.
But she doesn't know she's a hooker because
Maybe
pimps
it's
her
her
out.
pimp, and she doesn't even know she's being pimped.
Yeah, But basically that, like, those two characters.
But let's go with a maybe, because I feel like that's a natural.
So that was Tobias and
Tobias
Lindsay.
is really just there as a +1.
I'll be honest, their plot lines kind of just fell off and made me not really care about them as characters anymore after the season.
I think it's because Lindsay got so much plastic surgery that they just didn't want to show her. And Tobias, they didn't know what to do without Lindsay.
Yeah, I feel like
That's my
even though
honest
their
thoughts.
characters are constantly like at this battle, separating them really proved that like their energy really needed to bounce off of each other. Like,
Tobias's whole thing is that he's like a wife, like an innocent wife guy, and she's like a nymph maniac or whatever it's called. But like, when they separate, they're just annoying. I mean, they always are annoying, but there's some like
they're super
comedic element when they're putting up with each other.
They're super annoying in this season, like not funny.
But let's talk about maybe, because she is the pimp.
I should say, Tobias does end up going to jail.
Yes, for drugs?
No, he goes to jail because he gets to catch a predator.
He gets to catch a predator, again, as like a joke. Like, he's innocent and doesn't know what he's saying. Ha.
Yeah, he's like...
This is the clip you probably saw on YouTube. If you've heard of season 4, Arrested Development, you've probably seen this YouTube clip.
He's like... Wait.
He goes into the stage house.
Oh,
or
and
the,
then... Yeah. Yeah. So he gets... Yeah.
I was here to meet with a young boy to like...
No,
he was like just trying to like,
he wants to talk to Maybe, right? And then they're like, "Are you here to see your daughter?" And then he's like, Maybe. And then he like gets yeah. So
meanwhile, what's Maybe up to? He's in
jail,
living on her own. Well, yeah, so he's in jail.
So Maybe before this is apparently
she was in high school. She goes to George.
So she's again the
George
same
Michael.
age as George Michael, but she's a senior in high school. He's a senior in college. She goes to visit him. They have kind of a, how George and they have a
little bit of a thing,
a little bit of a relationship kind of thing.
Then she has a boyfriend in high school who's also much older than they let on, because they're doing a whole 21 Jump Street.
He's not though.
Yeah, but then it turns out he's actually not.
There's
he's not older.
One plot line.
Like,
this plot line that Maybe has is.
horror.
To be honest, if they played it just straight through, would probably
if it was one episode, it's probably been fine. Yeah,
it would probably be a 1, maybe 2-minute scene. To be honest, they cut this up so many times
a whole season
that they must show this like 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9 times in this season, over and over again. And we found out later that it actually doesn't make any sense when you watch the re-edited version, because they edited out a crucial part, which is him getting his anti-bullying badge.
That's right.
Because basically...
So okay, let's talk timeline here. After Maybe comes back from tutoring with George Michael to go to high school again.
She gets a boyfriend.
She gets a boyfriend in school, like this cool kid.
Yeah.
Who then we find out is a cop. Or so she thinks, because she sees he's in a bar with them and has a cop badge. So she assumes that he's like an actual adult pretending to be a kid in the school.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Buster's living with the politician Love, and he's going to public school with them, Buster. And we see in a scene this other kid getting his anti-bullying badge, so we would know.
Yeah, but this is
that he's a kid, but this is all edited out.
Part that they edit out.
All that was taken out. You might want to rephrase that.
Taken out, re-edited out,
mistaken,
in order to just make this plot line even more annoying. Basically, Maybe has his boyfriend. She thinks he's a cop. He's not a cop. He has an anti-bullying badge.
Yep.
That's the plot line.
That's the plot.
And then that's what she does.
We don't even have an ending plot for her, because it literally fizzles out. She sort of works at Fake Block, which again fizzles out.
Fake Block. Oh, but then they have Jeff.
Yeah, but that's like that doesn't.
I was just saying they have Jeff.
They do have Jeff. Okay, well, last but not least.
I think we did everyone.
Did we do everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Okay, well, that's season 4.
Season 4.
And we already kind of talked about the main ending of season 5. So that's the quote-unquote canonical ending of Arrested Development.
And it does
and
end...
yes, it
we
does
should
feel
say,
like a wet noodle of an ending.
Yeah, if you're wondering how it technically ends, yes, it's George Michael punching Michael, but like the last episode is all of them sort of together on this celebration, which they call
Cinco de
Quattro, which is like the day before Cinco de Mayo that they created to
drain. It's like a joke holiday that the Bluths invented to be racist towards Mexicans.
Yeah, to drain all of their party supplies so they can't use them the next day. And they do kind of bring back a lot of the characters for this.
Yeah, everyone's together at the start and everyone's together at this end.
But again, that's not how the season actually ends.
They want everyone to be there for this whodunit, which doesn't have any weight because that's not the end of the season. The end of the season is George Michael punching his dad.
They try to, when they're all together in this kind of Cinco celebration, they try to give different reasons why any of these characters would murder Lucille too, as if any of them have interacted with her up until this point.
Except for Buster
and
Lucille
1.
Like,
so yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the 4th season.
Yep.
It is atrocious.
It's rough.
It is not good, and it is really sad to see talented people all come together to create this.
And then the worst part about it was the reason we watched this, the reason we wrote this whole list, was because they said they were taking Arrested Development off Netflix. Guess what?
They didn't.
It's still on there. You can still watch this You can still watch this pile of steaming...
You can go and watch for yourself.
It's still there.
I had previously watched the 4th and the 5th season after I watched Arrested Development. I used to rewatch the first 3 seasons all the time. I was like...
Great show.
Which anyone should do. But I was like, you know what? I know that there's more seasons. Let me watch this. I watched the 4th and the 5th season, and I'm like, this is the most horrible thing I've ever seen. And when I saw they were taking it off of Netflix, I was like, this is our last chance to, like, experience this piece of content before it becomes, like, lost media. Turns out...
We were the fool.
We were played a fool.
It was a marketing play. And now you don't have to.
I really hope our views didn't go towards Netflix thinking that, people were happy watching this. Because we were not.
It was horrible. But I did enjoy.
It's a fun thing to watch if you really want to hate watch, but... It's
so confusing and
also...
crampy.
If you care at all about the plot, you're going to be annoyed because it's super out of
Some of the jokes are good.
There's about...
A lot of the jokes aren't.
There's a few funny gags, I will say. I feel like the Job stuff really stands out to me as funny stuff. And George Michael's got a couple of funny things as well. Mm-hmm. Everyone else, I'm not really that into, especially Oscar, especially Tobias.
Especially,
No, so true. No, so true. Yeah.
You just said Oscar and Tobias, so I was like, wait, I don't have anything to add there.
Yeah.
Those are the worst plot lines.
Yeah, if you want to, I think what I would do is not watch them. But
maybe like write a book or a poem instead. Just like do anything else with your time. You could probably
go on YouTube and Google the Job Tony Wonder scenes, and that's like all you need to watch, I think.
Just better yet, just watch BoJack Horseman.
And George Michael's internal clock.
That was a decent bit too.
Which I think is
there's a few good gags, but as a whole, it is some of the worst serial storytelling I've ever watched.
Yeah, if you want your audience to
be confused beyond repair.
Be confused to the point where they have to
flashback, flash forward, flashback. This wasn't made for the video. This was made for our viewing, so we can kind of understand what's going on.
We had to physically draw out,
and we did have to pull up other websites too.
And we had to use Reddit threads to help us figure this out. Like this was not something that was easy to do.
This wasn't a day one sit down and just draw while we watched. It was so confusing that out of frustration we started to do this just to
Yeah.
like keep some semblance of logic. There's
Yeah.
again, the re-edit throws the logic out the window. The original way it was shot barely managed to make it have logic. And
Yeah.
are you checking to see if it's recording
It
still?
is still.
Cool. Yeah, so if you want to really watch season 4, I'd probably recommend watching the original edit, probably the most cohesive version of this dumpster fire that you can see, but it won't make a good setup for season 5. Even though it still has the whodunit setup.
If you like seasons 1 through 3, I think you should just be happy with what you got. Okay?
Yeah.
Go back. If you watch seasons 1 through 3 and you think you want more, just go back to the first season.
If you want more, try another show.
Or check out one of the many other projects that the talented actors in this show have been in.
I would recommend BoJack Horseman if you like Will Arnett.
Yeah, and if you like Michael Cera, he's in things.
Like
as
Stranger
well.
Things.
No. But that would be fun, wouldn't it be?
Juno?
You know what he's in?
Juno?
The new Barbie movie.
He is, but that's not a TV show. That
Juno's
doesn't
not a
really
TV
count.
show either.
What?
Juno.
I didn't know that.
Anyways, I don't...
Did you get my joke?
Yeah, that was funny.
Thanks.
You can watch Zootopia if you like Jason Bateman.
And finally, if you liked Oscar, no, you don't.
That is so true. That is so true.
Has he done anything since? Like, not
yeah,
really.
Transparent. Oh, I guess that was in between.
No, I'm talking about this Oscar. Buster, you meant.
Oh, of course, Buster.
Of course, Buster, the character not named Oscar.
Buster's been in things and shows.
Has he actually?
Yeah, he's like a he shows up every once in a while,
Okay.
and you go, oh, that's Buster from Arrested Development.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. The first seasons are great. I thought they had fun and they worked with what they did.
Can we do like what is your favorite joke from the first 3 seasons?
No, we should do about season 4. What's your favorite joke from season 4? My favorite joke from season 4.
I said one before.
You said a few.
I liked the visual gag of Buster doing the smoking was funny.
Oh, that's a really good one.
And I liked they tried to bring back the what am I trying to say? They try to bring back like the repetition of like
Blew
certain
yourself.
phrases that are like funny.
Yeah.
And like when they do that, it works because they're just going off of a joke that already happened in the first 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Like when they say like, "Oh, no touching," it's like, "LOL, you did the joke from the first 3 seasons."
I really liked the whole like structured joke of George Michael and Michael dating the same girl.
Yeah, I thought the fake block plot was like when they explained it, and it was like they're literally just making an app that's like a block of wood.
Yeah, that was
kind of fun.
Those characters probably had the most going for this
Yeah.
season, and also some of the least amount of screen time.
Yeah.
Or I guess amongst it all, it just feels like the least amount of screen time. Comparatively to everyone individually, it might be the most, but does not feel like it.
Yeah.
So that's been our opinion on this.
My favorite joke from the first 3 seasons.
Oh, yeah.
So many to pick from.
Mm-hmm.
I really like all the hand jokes. You know, watch out for Lucille is always a real classic one.
Mm-hmm. I like the...
You've got, egg.
I like There's Always Money in the Banana Stand.
Oh, there's always money in the banana.
Which, again, can we
It's
mention...
one banana, Michael. How much could it cost? $20? Oh, or the one where she's like, I'm having a party and I want the whole family there. And then Job walks in and he's like, we're having a party. And she just looks at him and she goes, no. That is the funniest. Anything Lucille says in the first 3 seasons, hilarious.
It's like crazy how much you can quote that show. And then when it comes to season 4, we're just like, Job isn't a thing.
Young.
Also, again, absent from this season.
Yeah, well. He didn't like.
He didn't want to do it. I know. He's done Silicon Valley since. He's doing other things.
Oh.
Yeah, we should watch that. That's a good show.
I was just gonna say, I feel like there wasn't much further they could go with his character.
That's a lame excuse, and you know it. Writers are designed to take a character that you can't go any farther with and give them another writing. Anyway, I'm not gonna vent about my frustrations on Hollywood screenplay format. So that was our thoughts on TV show.
We
if
loved
you want to
Arrested Development season 4. Just kidding.
If you want to hear more thoughts on our TV show, no, you don't.
If you want us to review more TV shows and less movies,
you don't.
Shut up. That's not the name of this podcast.
Yeah, we're not doing
this was
that.
a very special episode.
This was so bad we had to.
Simply made
it was our civic duty.
Literally out of our respect for our viewers.
Steer clear of this one, folks.
We wanted to put this out in the world that you don't need to watch this because we watched it for you.
So you don't have to.
You can just listen to what we have to say and
it'll still be shorter.
Picture it in your mind, and you won't have to hear the same scenes over and over and over again.
Yeah. Go watch BoJack Horseman.
Do 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 do. Can I turn this off now?
That sounds like a good end to me.
Goodbye.
Can I turn this off now? No, you end with that. Can I turn this off now?
Can I?
The last word of the podcast.
Okay, I will.